this might not end well for somebody. Hey guys, KWolfe back with another video. Thank you guys for watching. If you would, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it around. You guys know what to do. The only way I can grow this channel if you guys subscribe and share it around and help increase that algorithm. So I appreciate you guys that are watching with me. East Coast is starting this weekend. First round of the 250 East Regional Series, Detroit, Michigan, Ford Field. And I apologize that I'm not as up to date on this. I've had a lot going on lately personal wise, and I wasn't really paying attention to everything that was going on for Detroit this weekend as far as the schedule goes and all that and the broadcast. So this weekend, Detroit's a day race. You know, I don't necessarily agree with that. I hate day races unless, you know, we're going to the old format of going outside at a speedway like Daytona or Charlotte or Atlanta. You know, day races, especially when you're enclosed, Supercross needs to be at night, but the race is on NBC. So with that time slot, I'm not sure what's going on in the evening, why we can't bump Supercross to the evening, because the NFL playoffs are off this week since the Super Bowl is next weekend. I'm not sure what else is going on that NBC has to fill. But regardless, we've got a day race on NBC on the actual network. So interesting to see what the viewership discrepancy is between that and Peacock at night, whether we get to see those numbers or not. But here's the problem that I have with it, and that's the schedule as it goes for the riders. And it's just, it's very confusing to me, particularly for the night show. And if we look at the schedule right now, so practice starts at 8 o'clock. They're doing track walk at like 6:30 in the morning, which is, I mean, most of the riders are, if they're up at that point, they're in the gym at the hotel working out, getting a warm-up in before actually heading to the track. So this is going to be a completely different shift for them. So the first free practice is at 8 o'clock, but it's 450s going first. We've seen, you know, the Pro Nationals switch around 450s and 250s. Not that big a deal. You know, it's the same track for everybody by the time we get to the motos. Kind of in around about the same way for the qualifiers, but not really. So 450s are going first, then 250s, and they invert it, you know, similar to how it usually is with the 250, you know, C, B, and A, and then A, B, and C. So when we get to practice qualifying for every round, free practice, qualifier 1, qualifier 2, those guys in that 250B and 250C group are going to have a, you know, rough track to really try throwing in a hot time on. I know that Detroit right now with the dirt, it came in really soft. They've been able to get it dried out a little bit. I don't think it's going to be great. Compared to how it looked coming in, looks way better than it did. You know, the tracks, they should be doing press at the time of this recording, I assume. So the track looks like it's in decent shape, especially, like I said, compared to how the dirt came in. But I don't think it's going to be perfect for the night. I could be wrong. So you get through 450s, then 250s for each qualifying round, and then we get into the night show. And here's where it really gets interesting. They're going to run the 450s again. So the first 450 heat, gate drops at 3:06, followed by 450 heat number 2, and then both of the 250 heats. Then you've got the KTM Junior main event. So, you know, the same schedule that, you know, has been for years, 99.9% of the time when it comes to these races. Then you've got the 450 last chance qualifier, and then the 250 last chance qualifier. Okay, so we're keeping to that schedule. And then 250 main event. So I don't understand what the reasoning behind that is. I don't know if it's some kind of scheduled ploy for, you know, the 450s going first in the qualifiers in the heat races to captivate the audience, if that's the hook that, you know, Feld or NBC or whoever is going for. And I don't know what, you know, how much involvement the AMA has in this schedule. If they are scheduling it this way with influence, I don't know. I'd like to find out. I'm worried for the 250 guys, especially in those B and C groups in qualifying. And then the 4 guys, at least, that go from the 250 LCQ directly into their main event with only a 10-minute break. I worry about those guys getting hurt. You know, and not to say that they're not in shape, but there's a reason that this schedule that everybody has been on for years hasn't really, you know, altered any. And a lot of that is because they allow guys time to work on the bikes, get them ready, and recover, you know, on a normal schedule, between the 250 LCQ and the 250 main event, and same thing with the 450 LCQ and main event, there's usually about anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes for those 4 guys that come out of the LCQ to get ready, get recuperated, get a drink in them, and so forth, before going into that main event, before lining up for that final. I worry about those 4 guys coming out of the LCQ with only 10 minutes. That only gives the mechanics also so much time, and the pits in Detroit are not good. They're very tight. There's no pit party this weekend because of how tight the pits are. It's going to be cold outside if any of the teams are pitted outside. But that only even gives the mechanics less than 10 minutes. Get the bike, go back, make any adjustments that they need to make, whether it's retighten the chain, check the spokes one more time, add extra fuel if they need to, whatever the case is. But that's putting a lot of strain on, like I said, those 4 guys coming out of Last Chance Qualifier in particular. I'm worried about them. I'm worried about the guys in the B and C group and a lot of those rookies and a lot of the rookies that aren't on the factory teams that are more than likely getting into that A practice just because they're on a factory team that are going to have a rough track to deal with instead of a smooth track like they normally would and like every West round has been this year, to kind of get themselves acclimated and get themselves ready and comfortable for, especially coming out of the free practice going into that first qualifier. So those guys that are coming in that aren't as good as the factory guys, don't have the confidence, don't have the pace, they're already getting thrown in on a very rough and rutted track. Detroit's going to be soft. It's been cold temperatures. They were bringing in mud to build the track this week, essentially. So it's going to be a very tough challenge. I'm worried as far as a safety standpoint for those guys. And like I said, the safety standpoint for the 4 guys coming out of the 250 LCQ and then being thrown right into a main event. With this being shown on NBC, I get that they're trying to reach a mass audience, but I feel like if there's anybody new that's going to tune in this weekend for Detroit that has never seen Supercross before, they're going to see this, how the schedule goes for qualifying, and then when it gets flipped around right before the main events, it's going to confuse them, and I'm afraid it's going to turn them off to the sport because, well, wait, anybody with sense is going to think, well, wait a minute, those guys just came off the track. Why are they going right back onto it? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe there's a better explanation that somebody from Feld, NBC, AMA, whoever, can elaborate on this in the public masses for all of us to understand this situation. But, looking at it objectively and looking at it on its face as it is, I'm worried that something is going to go wrong. Somebody might get hurt, and it's going to end up being a bad situation for somebody. On a brighter note, let's take a look at the 250 East lineup coming into this weekend. You've got a stacked lineup from the Star Yamaha guys. They're not going to have their full boat. We were expecting them to have 5 riders coming into this East Division Series. I think it sounds like they're only going to be at 3, and that's going to be Hayden Deegan, Daxon Bennick, and Nick Romano. And Romano, he ran Nationals 2 years ago, and he has not done a Supercross yet. He's in the same situation that Ryder DeFrancisco was in out west. Romano has not raced a Supercross yet, so he's coming in as a rookie, overlooked because he missed all of 2022, or 2023, I should say. Romano and Bennick are the rookies there, paired up with the SMX champion Deegan. You've got Chance Hymas with Honda. You've got McAdoo, Faulkner, Hammaker on Pro Circuit, Guillaume Ferez on Husky. You have Triumph coming in with Jalik Swoll and Evan Ferry. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on Ferry just because of his story over the last couple years, like I mentioned in another video. It's just going to be interesting to watch how it's going to go with that new bike, with that Triumph. We don't even have a magazine report or a test ride or anything from anybody, because the only Triumph bikes that are currently in the States are for that team, for that Triumph Racing team. And if you're wondering, the homologation rule and all that, all Triumph and any other manufacturer has to show is that they are intending to build, they have to have the intention paperwork or whatever the technical term is, that they are going to build X amount of units. I think it's 400 at this point. They're going to build 400 units that are going to be available for the mass public, frame numbers, and all that for registrations and so forth. I think we're supposed to get the Triumphs here in late March or early April. I think that's what I was told. I can't remember exactly. One guy you will not see, of course, if you've been paying attention, is Husqvarna's rookie Casey Cochran. He was supposed to race the Futures in Anaheim 2 last week. Nothing's been reported on, social media or anything, but Casey, it sounds like, did have a crash the week before at the test track out in California and hurt himself. Don't know the extent of the injury, but it doesn't sound like it's too bad. But since he had to miss A2, he had to run that and the Daytona Futures before he could go pro at Birmingham. So since he missed A2, East Coast Supercross this year is a wash. More than likely, depending on his injury, he'll get ready for outdoors. I did send him a message. He got back to me. He said everything's all good. He didn't go into detail on the injury, and I didn't ask. He said everything, was fine, just a little banged up. But it sounds like more than likely, unless Husky and Nate Ramsey decide to make a shift and have him run A-Class this year at Loretta's, it sounds like he's just going to be off the bike. Or at least, he's not going to be racing, of course, until we get to Hangtown for the first outdoor this summer. Other guys, Preston Baseflug on the Bar X Suzuki. He raced the A2 Futures last week. I've known Preston the last few years. I'm really excited to see what he does. He didn't have the greatest result in the Futures last week, but I'm excited to see how he does. Very talented on a motorcycle, great style. I like watching him ride. And, he has an interesting story over the last couple years. When I first met him a couple years ago at Loretta's, he was on a Honda support deal. The next year, he gets a ride with Team Green, with the Team Green Cowie amateur outfit under Ryan Holiday. Ends up on a KTM deal in 2023. So 2021 Honda, 2022 PC, and 2023 on KTM when he's, for the year, and when he's at Loretta's. Now he gets a shot with the Bar X Suzuki guys. So a pretty interesting few years for him, but I'm interested to see how he does. And I'm really, really excited to see what he brings to the table. And hopefully he can put it into the main on his first shot and get that confidence growing. But thank you guys for watching. If you haven't seen my latest video, click up here. I found an old VHS tape from the 1987 Motocross Nations at Unadilla, New York that my dad had recorded years ago. It's the old Moto World coverage. It's an extended cut of Moto World that showed a condensed version of all three motos from the Motocross Nations. Like I said, you can click it up here. Check that out. Check out all the rest of the videos. Again, like and subscribe, share it around. You guys know what to do. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.